little puppet made of pine, wake. The gift of life is thine.
Suzanne Campbell. Number 1, Madam Speaker.
This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall be having further meetings later today.
Campbell.
Will the Prime Minister tell the House whether his predecessor, Lady Thatcher, broke the Code of Conduct for Ministers when her son, Mark Thatcher, made £12 million from the Al Yamamah arms negotiations?
Well, I have no doubt that my right honourable and noble friend acted with complete propriety, throughout her long and distinguished period as Prime Minister of this country. And if the honourable lady has any evidence to the contrary, I hope she will produce that evidence rather than peddling remarks like that.
Tim Devlin.
Number 2, Madam Speaker. Please.
I refer my honourable friend to the reply I gave some moments ago.
Devlin.
Would my right honourable friend agree that yesterday's announcement that Samsung are to bring 3,500 jobs to Stockton-on-Tees will be very welcome in the town where we have had long and high unemployment? And will he confirm the government's continuing commitment to the sort of policies, regional policies, which have brought this about?
Well, I very much welcome the announcement by Samsung. I think it's extremely good news for the North East. Throughout much of the last 30 years, there's been very high levels of unemployment in the North East, and I think everyone will recognise the importance of this very substantial investment. I know my honourable friend has campaigned for Cleveland for a long time and will be very pleased by it. It does follow a whole series of other welcome investments, Motorola, Digital, NEC, none of which would have come to this country but for the economic policies we follow, the fact that we are not part of the social chapter, and the fact that we are members of the European Union.
Mr. Tony Blair.
Absolutely fine. Madam Speaker, since this is our first chance after the recess, can I say how much we welcome the further moves towards peace in Northern Ireland and assure him of our continued support in achieving that peace? Madam Speaker, last Thursday on BBC television, the Chancellor of the Exchequer specifically ruled out a referendum on a single currency. Did he speak for the government?
May I firstly congratulate the Right Honourable Gentleman on his new position. It carries with it very great responsibilities, and I wish him well in those responsibilities for so long as he holds them. As far as Northern Ireland is concerned, I'm grateful to what the Right Honourable Gentleman had to say. It is and has been an intractable problem for very many years. We have made some progress. There is no certainty that we will be able to carry this process successfully through to a conclusion. I believe there is a chance, perhaps a better chance than we have known at any time in the last quarter of a century. I intend to take the opportunities that exist, but I hope I will carry the House with me in saying we must take them with care, with caution, and in our own time. I believe that is the only way that we will carry with us all the people of Northern Ireland, without which we will not be able to carry this matter through to a satisfactory conclusion. As far as the Right Honourable Gentleman's substantive question is concerned, at this moment no one knows what may be at issue in the IGC in 1996, and the question of a referendum on any issue does not arise and very probably will not arise.
Mr. Blair.
But, Madam Speaker, with all due respect, the Chancellor specifically ruled it out, and therefore he thought that it did arise. And isn't this the problem? That the Chancellor takes one view in Europe, his Employment Secretary takes another view, and he hovers between the two. And wouldn't he... And wouldn't...
Order! House will come to order. Mr. Blair.
And I repeat, he hovers between the two. And wouldn't he agree that a divided government is a weak government, and a weak government is no good for Britain?
The Right Honourable Gentleman has already indicated that were he to form a government, it would be a weak government, and precisely because he said that his government would not be isolated in Europe, irrespective of the issue, irrespective of the British interest, irrespective of the views of this House or the people of this House, irrespective of the views of his colleagues below the gangway, the right honourable gentleman would follow slavishly whatever Europe says. That is not a credible position for any government in this country. We will judge issues on their merits as they arise.
Sir James Kilfedder.
May I congratulate my right honourable friend on being the first Prime Minister in over half a century to achieve a cessation of terrorism in Northern Ireland. Is he aware that the people of Northern Ireland fully endorse his careful and cautious approach, because as he realised, until the terrorists hand over their dumps of Semtex explosives and arms, there is the real danger that they or a breakaway group could easily use them on some pretext that the British government had failed to deliver their promises.
Well, my honourable friend speaks with a great deal of knowledge of the position in Northern Ireland over many years and has had to live through many tragedies affecting his own constituents. I listen, therefore, very carefully to what he has to say on the subject of Northern Ireland. As I indicated a moment ago, we'll continue to be cautious. The question of armaments, and especially Semtex and detonators, perhaps more than guns, are crucial issues that will have to be dealt with as we advance this process.
Sir Peter Pike.
Number 3, Madam Speaker.
I refer the honourable gentleman to the reply I gave some moments ago.
Pike.
Recognising the Prime Minister's commitment to the National Health Service as restated last week, will he recognise the concern at the National Blood Transfusion Centres such as Lancaster and Liverpool, where the staff under threat of closure are pointing out the dangers and reduction in service if those centres are allowed to close? Will he intervene now and say that those centres must be kept open to maintain the level of service?
Well, it is important that we have a proper blood service in all parts of the country. I entirely agree with the honourable gentleman about that, and I will make sure that my right honourable friend examines with detail the remarks that he's made this afternoon. The point about the National Health Service that I think ought to be recognised across this House and beyond this House is that there is no one, I believe, in this House who doesn't share an affection for the National Health Service, who doesn't wish to see it built up. Honourable gentlemen, many of the honourable gentlemen now muttering on the other side sat in this House when the last Labour government cut the hospital programme by a third. They should know there are now 20,000 more doctors, an extra 3,000 patients treated every day, and one large increase in facilities costing over £1 million for every 8 days throughout the 15 years this government has been in power. That, Madam Speaker, is a formidable commitment to the National Health Service, and it is the commitment of this government.
Nigel Evans.
Number 4, Madam Speaker.
I refer my honourable friend to the reply I gave some moments ago.
Evans.
Does my right honourable friend agree with me that the recent news that we are to have a central computer for organ donors on computer is welcome news not only to the 5,000 plus people awaiting organ transplants, but also to their families as well? And that can he give an assurance that when the scheme starts it will be given as much publicity as possible to entice as many millions of people as possible to register?
Well, I will certainly look at what my honourable friend has to say. There's no doubt that a central register will clearly help hospitals and will bring a great deal of new hope to the people waiting for life-saving operations. We will therefore examine the publicity point and see that it gets as much publicity as is necessary.
David Cleland.
5, Madam.
I refer the honourable gentleman to the reply I gave some moments ago.
Cleland.
When millions of British families are suffering mass unemployment, poverty, a deteriorating environment and rampaging crime, is it right that so much attention should be focused on the marital problems of one very rich family?
Well, I have no intention of commenting on the subject to which the honourable gentleman clearly refers. On the subject of employment and unemployment, the honourable gentleman might perhaps welcome with me the fact that unemployment has been falling consistently in large numbers for getting on now for 2 years, including a further fall of 28,000 just a few days ago. That is a trend that looks as though it's going to continue. It's a trend that's come about because we've now returned to a position of low inflation and high growth. Indeed, we have growth exceeding inflation for one of the very few periods we've seen that in the last 50 years or so. And that is the best guarantee not only of more jobs, but of making sure that those people that have jobs retain secure jobs in the future.
Mr. Henry Bellingham.
Number 6, Madam Speaker.
I refer my honourable friend to the reply I gave some moments ago.
Bellingham.
Speaker, is the Prime Minister aware that when it comes to grant-maintained schools, Norfolk is in the lead? In those schools there is high morale, but above all, overwhelming parental support. Can he confirm that he will not be returning those grant-maintained schools to local authority control, unlike the Leader of the Opposition, who wants to turn the education clock back to the failed policies of the 60s and 70s?
Yeah. Well, I certainly can offer my honourable friend the reassurance he seeks. The development of grant-maintained schools has been a very great success. It has tremendous support from well over 1 million parents. Though I notice, I think the honourable gentleman opposite says that is a disaster, that 1 million parents are now getting what they want for their children. I have to say to him, this government doesn't regard that as a disaster. This government regards that as the choice, which I now thought was one of the mantra of the new Labour Party.
Paul Tyler.
Number 7, Madam Speaker.
I refer the honourable gentleman to the reply I gave some moments ago.
In the light of his previous answer, can the Prime Minister reassure the House that his administration is now a sleaze-free zone?
Let me say to the honourable gentleman, I am as concerned as any member in this House or any person in this country that we should have the highest standards in public life. I approve of corruption no more than I assume the honourable gentleman does, and I will not accept it. I believe that our public servants and our public institutions are acknowledged to be among the best in the world. And to maintain that reputation in administration and in politics, wrongdoing will have to be rooted out wherever it is, and I will seek to ensure that it is.
Sir Anthony Durand.
While congratulating my right honourable friend and his skill in dealing with the situation in Northern Ireland, we support him strongly in the caution that he's pertaining to exert in the negotiations. Will he meanwhile ensure that there are enough troops on the streets of Northern Ireland to reassure the people of Northern Ireland in the meanwhile?
Well, I'm happy to give my honourable friend that assurance. The details of policing on the streets are properly a matter for the GOC and the Chief Constable and not, of course, for direct political decision. But I think for as long as it is necessary, either for police, the RUC, or for troops to be on the streets in Northern Ireland to protect all the people of Northern Ireland, whichever part of Northern Ireland they come from, as long as that is necessary, they will be made available.
Mr. John McFaul.
Number 9, Madam Speaker.
I refer the honourable gentleman to the reply I gave some moments ago.
Prime Minister agree that his noble friend Lord Archer owes the public an explanation as to his share dealings, and will the Prime Minister therefore authorise a DTI report on those share dealings?
Yeah. Well, I welcome the opportunity the honourable gentleman has given me to make that position entirely clear, because I share with the honourable gentleman the fact that it's appropriate that I should do so. There are clear statutory procedures surrounding investigations of the sort that concerned Lord Archer. When concern first arose about the Anglia TV share dealings, my right honourable friend, the President of the Board of Trade, appointed independent inspectors to investigate the circumstances surrounding dealings in Anglia television shares. If the honourable gentleman will wait a while, the whole House might be able to hear the answer that the honourable gentleman has requested. When the inspector's report was received, my right honourable friend, the President, also took independent legal advice on their conclusions. It was therefore on the basis of the inspector's conclusions and on the legal advice my right honourable friend sought that he decided there was no further action to be taken under the insider dealing legislation. If there had been, action would have been taken. As far as publication is concerned, if I may deal also, Madam Speaker, with the shouted question from the honourable member for Workington, there's no provision in the Financial Services Act for inspectors' reports to be published. Indeed, when the bill was being considered before Parliament, it was made clear that inspectors' reports would not be published. Investigations are undertaken on that basis, evidence is given on that basis, and it would not be right to change the position retrospectively.
Time's up.